Thank you for joining me for another Quick Hits conversation. I'm Dr. Robyn. With me today, I have Stuart Wiggins. He's the founder of Induna Advisors, where he is a fractional chief operations officer. I have Sarah Oblick-Spiker. She's a life coach, remote operations specialist, and transformation expert. And I have Matt Persia, the well-being ninja. He helps employer groups help their employees have happy, healthy lives. The question I have for you is gossip always bad and to be avoided, or is it sometimes useful?
The question is, what is gossip?
Mm-hmm.
Because if we're having a conversation, any of us, and then I see someone else and repeat it, is that gossip or is that just relaying information? So is gossip something salacious that's been passed on? Or is gossip something that you haven't proved out to be true? So
for me, gossip is when you tell a story that isn't yours to tell, or you share information that isn't yours to share. That's what gossip means to me. Sarah, what do you think? What is gossip to you?
Oh my goodness. Well, at first it was something that kept me out of trouble. You know, growing up in a small town where my grandma grew up, where my mom grew up, before I did something stupid, I know the news would travel home before I even got there. But in all seriousness, I think it also depends on the degree, because some things are kind of innocent chit chat, but then we can get into some seriously deep, troubling waters where lives have been taken because of gossip and because the misinformation was spread and prejudice, and it's still gossip, just at a different degree.
Matt, what about you? When you think about gossip, what is it?
Yeah, I think gossip has a generally negative connotation. When you say the word gossip, people think it is negative. But I believe it's pieces of what everyone said. It's information that's passed on from one person to another that hasn't been verified. So the accuracy of it not coming from a direct source is in question. So in regards to that, it could be positive, it could be negative. It's what the person on the receiving end of the gossip actually then does with the information, where they pass it off and what they think about it.
I know when I talk about confidentiality, I always tell people, I will keep everything you say to myself unless you threaten to hurt yourself or someone else. And so I feel like gossip is only useful if it's protecting someone, not if it's damaging someone.
Yeah. Is gossip personal? Is it passing personal information?
Well, so if you're just passing like information about a company or about a project, I don't think that's gossip. That's data. That's information. Stuart, you asked the question. What are your thoughts?
Well, my thought is that in a lot of ways in our day-to-day lives, we pass information to each other, things that we've heard, things that we've read, and we don't validate the accuracy of it. We just pass it on without thinking of the implications. So that's why I asked the question, is gossip personal in nature? If I say, did you hear that so-and-so said something about so-and-so? When I first thought of gossip, that's what I thought of. But in day-to-day lives, we're always passing information to each other. So your original question was, can it be good or can it be bad? But if there's a project that's going on that needs to be discussed in a larger setting, then that's not necessarily gossip. But if I say something like, did you hear that nut job Steve Jobs is thinking about making a whatever, then is that gossip? So that's why I preface it with, is it personal in nature that makes it gossip? Is that the segregator? Well, that's just my thinking.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about the fact that I have friends who know that my baby sister is really important to me. She's a really big part of my life. And so they don't know her directly, but they'll often ask me, oh, how is she? How is she doing? And if I'm like, oh, she's good, or her daughter this, or something cute or whatever, that's fine. But if I think about telling them something that would make her embarrassed if she knew they knew, then that's inappropriate for me to share, and that's gossip.
Which brings a question, for example, being a former journalist, like codes of ethics when it comes to gossiping, when you have the whole channel whose business is spreading gossip. Where's that line between reporting the facts, which have went down the drain years ago, as we know, and damaging, intentionally damaging, or just being so ignorant that you turn around and it's like, well, if you don't like what I'm writing about, then sue me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think what you said there is intention. I think that's a big part of it too, is who's passing over the information and what's the intention of that information. So to the point, Stuart, you mentioned about conversations and passing information back and forth. I also think when you talk about gossip, it's how many people are relaying that information. How far does it actually get from the original sources? So 1 or 2 degrees of difference, that may not be considered gossip if it's trying to inform people. But then, the old game telephone, when you played it when you were a kid, you started with a message, and as it passed from one person to the other, it snowballs and the accuracy kind of dwindles down. And then that's where intent might go off the rails, or the original message and the accuracy gets watered down over time.
Mm-hmm. And if you're a manager or a leader and you're having conversations with other managers or leaders, when is it gossip and when is it trying to help someone grow or talking about whether someone's a good fit or not? Again, back to your point, Matt, I think it's intention. Am I intending to just drag this person down, or is there a reason I'm having this conversation, and can it be helpful to them in some way?
I think in a way it tells more about the person doing the gossip than the subject. And I personally always keep it in mind, if I'm hearing something from somebody that I know, when they turn around, they're going to be telling something about me to somebody else. So back to your point about having acquaintances who might know somebody, you know what to say to whom and what not to say to somebody else.
The integrity of the source of where you're hearing from is the question. I think that most people think gossip is negative, but it could be positive. So if you're hearing something that you can pass on or go back to a source and help someone or make this story more accurate, I think in that regard, it can be positive.
Think about when you start a new job and you're meeting all kinds of people all the time. People come to you with gossip. They might not know it's gossip.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to tell you about so-and-so or look out for so-and-so, and it's all gossip. So then it depends on what you do with that information. They've planted the seed of doubt about that person in your mind just by saying something about them. So if you look at the original question, I don't think there's anything good about gossip, to be honest with you. In fact, I can tell you in the past, if someone has told me something about somebody else, I would say, don't tell me about it. I don't want to know. I want plausible deniability. It's so easy to get sucked into that vortex. Whether it's true or not, you're part of the gossip cycle.
When I work with sports teams, I create a no gossip rule, and we have conversations like this. What is gossip? What creates gossip? Why is it so interesting? And I have them agree that it's not healthy. And what they do on the teams, what I suggest they do is if someone comes to you and said, oh, so-and-so this or that, they say, well, if you'd like to have a conversation with them about what they've done, how about if I help you? I can come facilitate it with you and we'll talk to them. So they avoid that triangulation where I'm talking to Stuart about Sarah, or Sarah's talking to Matt about me. If you're going to have a conversation, get everybody involved where somebody has that chance to say, well, no, that wasn't my experience. That wasn't what happened. That wasn't my intention. Or I'm sorry, I apologize. But I think that too often we do get into that where we love the storytelling part. No, who did what? What happened? And, oh, do tell.
You should have this conversation with 4 10-year-olds and get their definition.
And you do see it even in the moms groups. It becomes so salacious, doesn't it?
Well, there's a whole TV genre that's built around gossip and how entertaining that is. And those have great ratings because people like gossip. We
love the train wreck of other people's lives. That's what happens, is that we start getting involved in what other people's lives are, and we become vested somehow in it and the story that's being told, and just, oh, they're worse than I am, so it's okay. I think I have to go to Stuart's point. I don't think gossip can have a positive bent, because I feel like if you're sharing the information because it has value, then that's not gossip. But if you're sharing it just because it ups your ante in the group and you can tell stories, then that's negative.
But if you're the person that intercepts the gossip and then stops it and corrects it, there's value there.
Right. If you can fix it. Absolutely. I know I've been on the receiving end of gossip where I came back to work from lunch and my husband had given me a rose while I was at lunch, and someone saw him do it and assumed I was having an affair. And by the time I got back to the office, it was all over the office that I was having an affair because I had lunch with my husband and he brought me a flower. It was not good. Not good at all.
You said the word salacious. It won't be the last time you say it today.
Probably not. All right, y'all. That is our 10 minutes. Thanks so much for having this conversation with me. It was great fun, and I look forward to speaking to each of you again really soon.